Hello everyone, welcome to the Chiroptera project. I'm Daniel, and today I'm going to be talking about why Linux is bad. In this video, I'm going to be covering just a few simple things that I find really annoying about Linux and I feel hasn't been that good. I have actually used Ubuntu, Mint, Debian, and Linux Arch as well, and while I do find there's definitely huge differences between them all, some of them are better in dealing with some things compared to others, and I'll be talking about that later on. Now, I understand mentioning a video that says why Linux is bad is going to be quite terrible for a lot of Linux users. So basically, what I'm trying basically explaining this, that there's a whole bunch of problems with Linux, and while those problems are still probably going to be present even into next who knows how many years into the future, this is more just me trying to get the community's understanding of where I sit with Linux and how I mainly feel about these problems that there are present with Linux. Well, I do think Linux is definitely a fantastic operating system and definitely has a future. I don't see how Linux as an operating system can potentially move forward if these things are holding it back. So I want to first of all let you know that Linux will never be installed by a home user or someone who is not very good with computers. The main reason is because they have to hassle with trying to understand an operating system, and for a lot of people who have installed Linux, you probably know this means in setting up an ISO, loading it onto some USB you have around the place, going into your BIOS, making major settings, which for people on laptops can be really difficult to do, and then essentially loading your operating system on, running through the installation, setting it up. Users don't want to go through that. They want Windows is already there. A user will often get confused with the idea of, can I actually do it? Will I break anything in the process? Do I really have the ability to do this? And these sorts of things are just going to throw them away. So Windows is just sitting there for them. Of course they're going to use it. It's like, why would they use anything else? But I ask, based on issues I've seen with Windows, including news reports and things, I question, well, why would you use Windows? So it's a two-way argument there of what do you do with this, and unfortunately this tug of war is completely within Windows' favour, simply due to the amount of people who are running Windows for its convenience. Now, every single user of Linux always has something they dislike about Linux. That's the nature of anything that you have. You're going to have something you also dislike about it as well. Some of these things can be quite major. Some of them can be breaking for your use of Linux, and others of them can just be minor annoyances and unnoticeable. But there's always things that are going to make Linux not too good for some users. And in this case, I wanted to actually mention some of them. So one of the things I've felt with Linux is that there's some stuff in it that's way more complicated than it needs to be. One of these things is the networking editing list. Within Linux, for the interfaces, there's a text. If you use a really low-level version of Linux, there is a basic text document where what you can basically do is type up the networking interface and then type up how you want it to be configured, whether you want it to use DHCP and manually assign things. This on its own is fine, except there's two things I don't like about it. The first one is, why isn't there an application to do this? Like, there should be one to do this. And yes, I know GUI stuff exists, and yes, I know, ifconfig exists. But the problem is, though, I don't want, if I end up needing to force use a text document, I want some of the information or basic commenting of how to do basic things already there, like a template sort of thing. It shouldn't just be a blank document with a small, hello, I'm here, this is what I do, comment at the top. So that's one problem that I have with Linux. And the other thing is as well, I did mention the ifconfig. The problem with this tool is that apparently it's one of those many networking tools within Linux that are considered obsolete. And when I look at that, it just straight up confuses me. Why are these tools obsolete? Are they obsolete? they're still supposed to be used in there. So for whatever reason, they have these tools, and some of them are fantastic while they're there. I mean, there's like multiple ways to shut down your computer, and the only way I discovered that was through downloading a phone app, and it's like, why are there so many ways to do these things? Fine, let there be many ways, but surely there's at least a standard. I mean, we know Linux has a lack of standards, and that lack of standards, because there's so many standards, actually causes more confusion, and then again, makes Linux more complicated than it needs to be. The next thing I want to cover, and I'm 5 minutes in, is the manual pages. They are the most unuser-friendly things I've probably seen. Like, they lay out some things nicely, and the rest of it is just dumped there. And if I want to understand how to quickly use something, what the parameters are, what missing parameter, what things without the parameters actually do, it's just not there. Like, the man pages are just this complicated mess, and it's like, if you're going to quickly read a tutorial and want to know how to do something, put the more complicated stuff at the bottom, or give me a few basic straight into things. Now, I understand that the people who build the man pages decided that they wanted to make these things and edit these things themselves, but it's really not user-friendly for a lot of other people who want to use them. I mean, thank goodness they've got the info pages, but then again, even I find those hard to obtain on some Linux operating systems. Next one I want to cover, and this one is probably a bit unfair, is the lack of categorization within the Linux operating system packages and its inbuilt packages and its external and packages and unseen stuff and stuff that is not included in the operating system. In particular, the fact that if you've got a Linux operating system and you want to know about the different applications that can perform one thing sort of similarly, like let's just say it's a graphics you want to know, graphics applications building 2D objects. What are all the applications that can be used to do that? You can't really find that within Linux, and that's one of the big questions I have. Why is there not really anything out there that could just simply list these things together? I mean, for me, what I'm trying to do is actually go from the other side and say, so of everything, let's list it all out and let's see what actually things can do there. Now, some of these basic areas within certain operating systems like Arch do actually cover this in a basic sort of way, but other ones tend to... These things just really aren't covered properly. That's the main problem with them. I also want to additionally mention that the built-in functions of Linux, I didn't discover those until I realized that CD was part of one of the many built-in functions of Linux. Well, commands of Linux, and it's like, why is this command built in, and what are all these built-in commands? You literally go there, there's a particular command you use to find out what all these built-in commands are. It's like, what are all these? Do I need to know all these? Are all these important? Because I realize some of them are mainly for the operating system to know, and you don't really need to touch that. And it's like, that's fine. 8 minutes in. So, I just wanted to quickly cover Ubuntu. I went and checked out Ubuntu, Mint, Debian, and Arch and tried to figure out if they were able to have any documentation that would potentially help users out. Ubuntu, Mint, Debian, and Arch all had their installation guides, and I found them quite user-friendly and nice to use. Ubuntu, it had good information about the GUI, even if it didn't cover everything, and it was categorized well. For Mint, I found there was no information about other commands and what they were in the inbuilt package and things. For Debian, I found that there was a documentation, but it was a bit excessive. There was way too much detail packed into a single page, and some of it was very confusing to navigate, as probably a lot of the Debian websites, a lot of people know, is a bit. The good news is they did have a documentation and they did have a wiki, so that was nice. For Arch, I actually found it had the best information on some of the most basic operating system commands, including information about different, mainly the operating system itself and different commands related directly to the operating system. In terms of extending out from there, it didn't have much. However, it did have a Wikipedia for this, and that was really good, so I like how they've done that. I believe that all these problems mentioned today should mainly be fixed by the community, and if someone wants to know about the categorization of every single command, someone should look into doing that, whether it's me or someone else. I don't know how I would upload this to the internet, but I will. I notice we're 10 minutes in. I'll probably end up being 11 minutes in for this. Can't go over 15 minutes anyway, because YouTube won't let me. I also want to come back to the fact that, yes, some of these issues I mentioned are quite controversial and will raise a lot of issues, including a lot of problems down in the comments. So I want to say, bring on the comments. Let the comments come in. I want to hear people's ideas about these issues, and yes, I want to start a conversation about some of these, or all of these preferably, because things that break down Linux also pull Linux apart, and we really don't want that to be stopping what Linux could potentially become. So please contact me on Discord. I will have so continue the discussion with me on Discord. This is Daniel. Whether you'd like, dislike, or subscribe is completely up to you, as I shouldn't have to tell you what to do. And thank you for watching.